What is the latest when it comes to warnings, advice from your perspective this morning?
Yeah, good morning. Again, people need to take heed of the advice. This storm front continues. The rain's still falling. Our river systems are at capacity, and the dam is spilling here in Sydney and on the mid-north coast, the northern rivers, the northwest of the state, the south coast. Those rains continue and everybody's on edge. And I was up there yesterday in the mid-north coast. Clearly, we're not over it at this stage.
Are you on edge? Is your government on edge over this as well?
Well, no. I mean, we're dealing with another disaster, mate. We've been through drought, bushfires, the COVID pandemic, and now we're confronted by another disaster. And I know there's going to be lots of conversations about Warragamba Dam and the dam wall raising. But what we're seeing now is 2 months' worth of rain falling in a couple of days. So that's unheard of.
Yeah, OK. Well, on that, we had the Mayor of the Hawkesbury region on the show earlier, and he did point to problems with that higher wall at Warragamba. He said your government committed to it several years ago. There's only been consultations since. So what's going on there?
I think there's been lots of debate about it because it's the largest single project you'll see in the world, raising a dam wall by 14 metres. It's an engineering feat I think hasn't been seen before. There's a lot of debate around the heritage area, and there's a lot of controversy and probably a lot of opposition, and sometimes it takes something like an event like this to remind us sometimes infrastructure does impact on the environment, and this is a decision we need to make. I know there's been question marks even about the releasing water from the dam earlier, but again we're under a legal framework because it is Sydney's drinking water, that you can only release a certain amount of water, and the amount of rain we've received hasn't helped that. But look, we'll have to make a decision about Warragamba. What is the solution that mitigates for flooding in the future? And right now, we're in the middle of the disaster and the emergency. Our focus will be on that. But we'll have that. We will have to be focused on a final decision about what we do with Warragamba.
Do you want to see? Do you want to see that wall raised?
I think there's been a couple of options. If you can't actually achieve the wall raising, then you've got to look at other alternatives. And the other alternative would be to leave the water levels at a lower level and maybe consider desalination Mark II. There are other solutions. So let's get through the emergency. Let's go back to then the detail, and we'll work through what is a solution that mitigates floods, but also makes sure Sydney never runs out of water. Remember, 18 months ago, we were down at 42% capacity.
Yeah, that's right.
No one would have imagined in the midst of the worst drought that this would be the case today. And then we had bushfires, and some of that water quality was impacted by bushfire ash. So there's a lot of detail behind what's happening at Warragamba. It's not just an idea of releasing or building. It's actually planning for the future and what that looks like.
Well, I mean, and also to your credit, you can't drop the capacity of Warragamba to 25%, as some people are suggesting, because what if the rain event was a fizzer? Then you'd be dealing with all kinds of other problems.
Well, we got to 42% capacity, and under 40% I don't think we've ever been. We don't know what the quality of the water is. So imagine we were 20% lower to start with before a drought period, and we're talking in 20% capacity. Sydney would be under threat of not having clean water, and that's not acceptable.
That's right. Yeah.
So what are other solutions? And it could be possibly raising the dam wall, or alternatives is to look at a second desal that gives you a backup if you ever, and that way you can lower the dam levels. But they're the conversation, the detail of work that we're doing, and I know that the work's been underway for a while. Look, I know that the community's concerned, but the downpour that we've seen over the last few days, I was in Kempsey yesterday, that river, it could burst today. We're uneasy. But, we haven't seen that in decades. And in Telegraph Point, the servo, the Damesh, who owns the local service station, saw the water move at a rate that he had a metre of water in his service centre within 5-6 minutes. Unheard of, unseen before, and he was trapped in that particular business. So the reality is what we're seeing overnight and over the last 3 or 4 days, I've never seen before, especially off the back of the worst drought, that we never thought we'd have a rain event like this.
We had the Mayor of Penrith on the show earlier as well, and she wants you to prioritise the Castlereagh corridor to help evacuations for floods and fires. Can you at least commit to that?
But I can absolutely talk to the Transport Minister and the Roads Ministers. The investment we've seen in roads, if that's on the radar, if that has now been highlighted as an issue around people evacuating, then again, we need to look at this after every event. And as the Minister responsible for bushfire recovery, for instance, we're learning it. We've learned a lot from the bushfires and what we need to do better in the future. Again, after this event, we do a stock take of things that work, that didn't work, where were the issues, and we prepare it properly for the future.
Okay, well, another issue, David Littleproud has one. He's criticised your government of allowing residential development on floodplains, particularly the Hawkesbury Nepean Valley. Your response to that?
Well, again, David Littleproud wants to play politics at a time that people are feeling uneasy and unsafe, and in the midst of an emergency, that's not the conversation or the debate. Our planning rules are what they are. People build within those rules, and we mitigate against flooding. And now's not the time for the debate. I'd be telling Littleproud to worry about the Murray-Darling Basin plan that, under his watch, he's botched. We haven't got water for irrigators, and we haven't got water for the environment. So maybe you should be focused on that.
Okay, but are people now paying the price for building up their homes in floodplains?
Well, the truth there is that people haven't just built in the last 6 months or 12 months or a couple of years. This is decades of development that has occurred under the watch of different local governments, state governments and federal governments. And we zone areas in a particular way. We mitigate against, 1 in 100-year floods. We do build residential townships across areas that do have are prone for flooding. But if it means we've got to look at this different in the future, as I said, post this event, we consider things for the future. And, with climate change, and we've seen both extremes, dry spells and very wet spells, maybe it is time to revisit exactly how we zone areas for residential.
Okay, Deputy Premier John Barilaro, thanks for your time as always. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.